Hello and welcome back to No BS. Today we turn to talking about a very interesting trend that's been happening on YouTube for a few good years now. I'm of course talking about boxing matches. That's right. For the last few years, a number of prominent YouTubers have turned and made these sorts of expositional boxing matches, setting up fights with their different YouTubers and other opponents. And even recently, some of these YouTubers are starting to fight actual boxers. Like there's one fight that's been set up with another real boxer and another YouTuber that's coming up next year. That's going to be a big deal. And there's been a few that's happened recently a lot of people are talking about too. Specifically, we're going to talk about a match between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. Jake Paul, of course, is the big kind of goofy YouTube guy. He does a lot of these vlogs. He does a lot of like pranks and different videos. They have music videos and merch. Jake Paul goes along with Logan Paul. They're like Paul brothers. They're like the big YouTube guys, whatever you want to call them. Not a big fan myself, of course. We've covered some of their controversies, and today is no different, but it is a little bit of a different angle because we might have to be defending Jake Paul today, because what's happened is he boxed this guy, Nate. He won, and now he's being called racist for winning, which is absolutely absurd. It's just totally ridiculous. It's coming from some really silly people who should not be taken seriously at all, like the total worst of the worst kinds of journalists. We're going to go over an article and talk about the outlet this is from and the people that are saying this, and essentially going after Jake Paul for winning a match against a minority. That's being turned into him being called a racist, which is absurd. They're basically just saying that anyone that wins in a sporting event against minorities is racist, or more specifically, when white people win, that's racist. And it just kind of really shows the people saying this are the true racists. So we're going to get to that soon, get to the details and more. But first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor. I mean, the police are the people that protect us from criminals and save our lives. They're the real heroes in our country. And since they're under attack each and every day by the left, the people trying to defund them, I say we actually do the opposite and support the police. And the best way to do it is to get your hands on this free coin. This 2020 police coin giveaway can be yours today if you click the link below this video. All you have to do is cover shipping costs, and you could get this free coin delivered really quickly. And I have to say, I have the coin myself. It's really strong, really cool, really great thing to have as a collector's item. You're gonna love it. If you love the cops, if you love America, and if you want to support this channel, check out that link below and get yourself a free coin. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's turn back to this story. It says right here, video, Jemele Hill asked Jake Paul if knocking out Nate Robinson was racist. There's a picture of journalist Jemele Hill. She attended the heavyweight championship of the world Wilder v Fury premiere in 2018. That's where this picture's from. But that's not the fight we're talking about. We're talking about Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson, a bit of a joke fight. And before we move on to the details and Jemele Hill and where this came from a terrible performance they had on a Vice video. Vice is known to be super woke and racist too. But before we get to that, let's talk about the boxing part. I mean, I'm not really into these YouTube boxing matches. It's kind of silly, but at the same time, if people like that, if that's what they want to go for, if that's what you're interested in, I mean, if you like Jake Paul, that's another thing. And then if you like boxing, like go for it. I mean, I think it makes sense that this would be embraced by pros now, because after a couple years of YouTubers boxing and getting all this hype and getting pay-per-view setups and lots of money from it, it makes sense that the real boxing world would be open to get involved, because that sport is on a dying path. It's not been very popular in a long time. Boxing used to be like the biggest sport ever. People used to get ready to watch people like Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. Like back in the 90s, it was still really big. But lately it's been taken over by MMA, and other fighting sports are way more popular. So boxing getting a little bit of attention makes sense. But now that they're getting this bad attention and they're going after Jake Paul, who again is not someone I would normally try and defend, but in this case, he's not racist. Obviously, he never said anything racist that I've seen. If there's something else to the story, I guess we'll see it. But I think the basic premise is if you win in a fight, official boxing match, sporting fight against a black person, you're racist. And that's not surprising coming from Jemele Hill. She's a very, very racist, anti-white person. She used to work for ESPN. Giving you a little background about her, here's a little bit of her story. She worked on Sports Center right here. This is her wiki page. And she's just known for being super anti-white and racist. She had to be let go from ESPN a few times because she said some cringy, embarrassing stuff. And she basically has hopped around since then. And here's some comments that she said. She said here on September 2017, she called Trump a white supremacist. And then ESPN had to defend themselves and separate from that. And then she criticized the White House press Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. He'll be fired. She tried to get not unfired because of the First Amendment, but clearly she was speaking out and getting political and saying random things. And now she bounced over to The Atlantic, and she also has a podcast. And as you can see here, this is Vice on TV. So this is where she landed now, and she's saying more racist stuff. Like, it's just a really, really racist, anti-white woman who hates like Americans in our country and lots of people here. The article goes on to say, just over a week ago, YouTube star Jake Paul made headlines when he knocked out former NBA player Nate Robinson in a boxing match. The match didn't last long as Paul knocked Robinson to the ground in the very first round. Later in the fight, the YouTube star knocked out the former NBA player in a clip that went viral on the social media. With over a week to process how the fight played out, Paul received an interesting question from former ESPN host Jemele Hill. Hill and former ESPNer Kari Champion hosted a show called Kari and Jemele Won't Stick to Sports. On the show, Hill asked Paul if what he did to Robinson was racist. Check it out. So I don't really get that at all. Like, that is some real low IQ interpretation of what happened. I don't get why winning against a black person is racist, but let's give him a chance and check the tape.
We saw what happened to Nate Robinson, so I'm going to ask Jake Paul right here in front of America. Jake, considering where we are right now in our racial conversation in America, was what you did to Nate Robinson racist?
So she even laughs afterwards. I don't even know if she believes it. I think these are the kinds of people that just try to stoke the fire and just say, is that racist? That anything that happens to her group, she's very, very protective of her group, and she hates other groups. So she hates Jake Paul because he's not in her group. It's very kind of like in clicking, like high school kind of drama. And she doesn't even believe the question, I don't think. But at the same time, she presents it. I think she has these kinds of mental gymnastics because we've seen her react and act like this before. So it really is the kind of thing where it comes out as a joke, but it's ridiculous. And I can't even believe that someone would think they could get away with saying this. I can't believe Vice would post this. I don't know why this is even an issue.
Nah, stop playing with me. Come on.
Listen, Jake, it's a sensitive time right now. We just had to witness a white man just knock a black man smooth out in front of all of America. So that's why I asked that. But just tell us about that moment real quick, because it looked like Nate was asleep before he ever even hit the canvas.
Okay, so she brings up this time in America. That's the thing. That's the kind of premise that she's running with. She said it in the first initial question. We're at this time in America, in this time in America. And you could guess what she's going for. I'm not really buying it, of course. It's still a silly question, and it makes her just look like the most low IQ person I've ever seen. Like, I don't know how she got on ESPN and TV. I could guess it has to do with her being a female and being a minority and her using that to her advantage. But the point is, just because there's some drama going on in America, drama that people like her started, she started the drama. She's the one race baiting and calling everyone racist and saying the president did this and that when he really didn't. She's making these claims, saying them on her platforms, on TV, on Twitter, and she caused this chaos. And now she's saying, well, look at all this chaos my group caused. Don't you think it's wrong to win when you're playing us in a sport? Like, what are these people supposed to just let them win? Like, if it was a basketball game and there was a white player against a black team, like, he's supposed to just let them win? That's absurd. And the idea that they would bring that up, like, first of all, you caused this chaos. The stuff going on as far as racial tensions, I mean, it's not really as bad as they claim. They act like there's people going out around and just locking up and killing minorities. It's just not true. If things were really that bad in America, she wouldn't be rich and on Vice and on all these TV shows. Like, why would they allow minorities on TV shows if America was this white supremacist nation that hated them? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we train for. You know, at the end of the day, boxing is a sport, and you know, you train to win, and that's what I went in there and did, and I worked hard for this. And you know, Nate is the one who called me out originally. So
I think he is frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Sorry,
okay,
my Wi-Fi is unstable, like my relation.
Okay,
so they got a little joke in there. Jake Paul isn't the least charming guy. He's got a personality. That's why he got famous in the first place. It might not be something that I or you like, but apparently lots of people are entertained by him. That's why he can draw an audience and get people interested in what he has to say. He's pivoted to this boxing thing, which I think is honestly more interesting than what he did before. So I would even possibly give him props for this. It's not something I think is necessarily interesting or a sport that I follow. I don't watch these matches, but it's definitely something I would watch over a Jake Paul video. And it's definitely something like cooler than what he was doing before when he was just having like parties in his mansion and just messing around.
Was it racist to knock a black man out? That is the question of the
No,
week.
stop asking me that. I said no.
It's not racist.
It's a shitty question. It's a sport.
Why is
That's
it a
what you train
shitty
to do.
question? Why?
It's the dumbest question in the world, ladies. Why would winning a sporting event against a person mean you're against their race? It doesn't matter that they're black. It doesn't matter that Jake's white. Like your idea, you don't understand what words mean. I don't know. I don't know. I can't believe they're repeating this question. Like the first time might have been a mistake or a joke, but doubling down is way too much. And it's showing just how far gone this site has gone, how far gone these people have become. They're not living in the real world. They don't understand what they're saying. They don't understand what people think. These are really detached people who are constantly playing the victim, constantly seeing themselves as victims when they're really just fairly being beat in a boxing match. I mean, if the guy wanted to win, he could have played harder, or he could have not challenged Jake Paul. Like he said, the guy challenged him. And the last thing I'll say is this chick talks with her eyes closed at the beginning of this question. She's like closing her eyes and looking up. That's a super kind of liberal thing to do. It's a very kind of entitled, like they talk with their eyes closed, like they're just so thinking through, like they think they're so smart, but it's really a sign of them not being cool and not being intelligent or knowing what they're talking about. So that about wraps things up. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you on the next video.